gateway to the Sahara Desert, the city of Timbuktu is steeped in history. It is a vital centre for Islamic culture, built up over hundreds of years, rich with beautiful mosques and collections of invaluable ancient manuscripts. After years of instability, though, the Tuareg people rose up to demand independence for the north of Mali. Forming an alliance with Islamist fighters, they quickly took over vast areas of territory. Meanwhile, in the capital, the government was overthrown by a military junta.
Considérant l'incapacité du régime à lutter de manière efficace contre le terrorisme et à restaurer la dignité du peuple malien, la force républicaine de l'État et les acquis démocratiques, le CNRDR se réclamant des forces armées de défense et de sécurité du Mali a décidé de prendre ses responsabilités en mettant fin au régime incompétent et désavoué de M. Amadou Toumani Touré.
But nothing was able to stop the Tuaregs and their Islamist allies. After Gao, Timbuktu fell and Sharia law was imposed. They destroyed mausoleums, mosques and ancient manuscripts. They declared the whole of the north independent and renamed it Azawad. But the Tuaregs fell out with their Islamist partners, the marriage of convenience breaking down. The Tuaregs then forced into submission as Al-Qaeda sent hundreds of new fighters to bolster the ranks of the Islamists. So France, the former colonial power, acted. At the start of 2013, airstrikes targeted the north before French and Malian forces retook the whole region, Timbuktu falling without a fight. Well, since then, Malian and international peacekeepers have largely kept the peace, but the danger remains, with security still a major problem. Well, François Rouillet revisits Timbuktu for France24.
It's known as the gateway to the Sahara, an architectural wonder built over 700 years as a trading post for desert caravans. Timbuktu is the myth-laden outpost where the fertile Niger River basin fades into a shifting sea of ochre dunes. Tourists used to come from the world over. Then the war arrived. Today, Timbuktu is nursing its wounds, struggling to move on. Timbuktu was officially liberated on the 28th of January 2013. But reminders of the occupation remain. 10 months of brutality, jailings, looting and rapes have left deep wounds, many hidden from view. Human rights activist Zainab Nafi knows what the rebels did.
Good morning, Coordinator.
Good morning, Zainab.
How are you?
Fine, thank God. And you?
Yes, all fine, thank God.
All well, the family?
Yes, all well. And the start of the week?
It's good.
She hears about the atrocities from the victims she counsels. In northern Mali, especially in Timbuktu, women were the first targets.
We assist victims of human rights abuses. We support the survivors of gender-based violence. We try to provide protection to those in need when they request it.
According to professionals in the field, dozens of civilians were targeted. Most remain anonymous. Zainab makes a home visit.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Good day to you.
Mariam has agreed to tell us her story of being attacked in her early teens. The men remain at large. For that reason, we've hidden her identity. The gunman came to her home in 2012. She was 13.
There were 10 of them. They hung around my place at night, every night. I escaped and hid in another house, but they found me. They said they would marry me off by force if necessary. My parents tried to resist, but they took me to the bush, and they married me. But you could never call it a real marriage. I found myself with other women, but they did not touch them. I was like their female donkey. They raped me. They took me by force until I became pregnant. Then they threw me out. To this day, I am afraid they will return and cut my throat and throw me in a well.
Mariam works as a cleaner. She earns the equivalent of €7.50 per month. Not enough to feed her 3-year-old daughter, who was born of the jihadists' rapes.
They usually ask us for support with medical expenses. Rape is a taboo subject in the community. When we offer them legal assistance, they turn it down. They say they can't do it. I will always be exposed, targeted. When we succeed in taking cases to court, they often remain in limbo. They aren't dealt with. You might see a rapist arrested, but a week later you see him in the streets and he keeps on committing the same offenses. He might be arrested and then released again.
Impunity is endorsed at the highest level. Suspected war criminals are released in exchange for hostages. They walk free in what are known as confidence-building measures with armed groups. Civilians are at a loss to know what the authorities are there for. Yahya Tandina saw firsthand the occupation of Timbuktu and of the office of his employer, the state broadcaster.
Here
you are. This is all that's left of the national broadcaster's offices. It was all burnt. It's a sad sight, and it's still the same 3 years on. It's such a shame because the ORTM is a major national corporation which is supposed to be the eyes and voice of Timbuktu.
Most journalists fled the arrival of the gunman led by Abu Zaid, the head of the Malian branch of al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. But Yahya stayed. He wanted to tell the story of Timbuktu's darkest hour. Radio stations were banned from playing music. They had to broadcast propaganda.
My friend, how are things?
Yeah, hi, what's up?
All good?
All well, yes.
And the radio, what's the latest?
Oh, so-so.
In the Market Craft Centre, Al Farouk Radio is back on air. Its manager fled to the capital in April 2012, but is back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Al Farouk Radio 98 FM. Thank you so much for inviting us into your home, for sharing our programs and for trusting us every day. I would not have endured what Yahya did. If I'm honest, I suppose I left because I had neither the strength nor the belief that it would ever change.
Both men are happy to be back at work, but bitter. The jihadists and the armed groups still control all but Timbuktu's city. The journalists feel like prisoners in their own home.
Before the occupation, I could report on all issues. I could travel 100 or 200 kilometers from Timbuktu. I could do stories about the cattle breeders. You have to go north to do those. There are lots of stories, but we cannot do them without risking our lives.
Yahya, Mahman and his colleagues say the city limits and the region have become condemned to insecurity. Banditry and hijackings and attacks are growing on the roads, which are vital to the economy. Peacekeepers and French and Malian soldiers patrol the scenes of former holiday snaps, marking a deterrent presence against crime and attack.
It blew up here, by the main entrance. There were sandbags all around the perimeter of the MINUSMA camp. This was where the offices were. You can see the scale of the attack. This was a brand new building. Look how damaged it is.
A suicide vehicle was involved, as well as gunmen on foot with Kalashnikovs. It's a familiar mode of attack. Over 70 peacekeepers have been killed since the United Nations deployed in Mali in July 2013.
On y va?
Mouvement vers Flamme de la Paix. Terminé.
Tunisian National Guard's Colonel Sami Sharif, on UN duty, says the jihadist attack threat is diffuse but permanent.
We do our best to patrol all day and at night. We go all around Timbuktu to secure the city. We want to try to restore the confidence that was lost after 2012. The people and families who lived here before the war in 2012 are now coming back.
There are dozens of patrols each day, some jointly with Malian police and National Guards. It's about information gathering and explaining what the peacekeepers are here to do.
Are you the boss around here? What's your name again?
Ashou Arbi.
Do you understand French?
No.
Who understands French here?
I do.
First of all, tell him that we say hello.
Confidence remains low. Cooperation is limited. The Malian forces stationed here are often from the south of the country. They lack resources. Armed robberies using landmines or explosive devices are on the increase. Soldiers are frequently accused of bad practices and abuses against civilians. Their regional commander refuses to comment on the allegations. These days, not an event takes place without police protection. The measures are drastic, but they match the threat. The extremists are still around.
The form of Islam practiced in Timbuktu is authentic. We find it moderate, peace-loving, embracing of others. It's a form of Islam that accepts others and exudes solidarity.
A member of Mali's High Islamic Council, Diadier Maiga, warns that the jihadists have never really left. Many just switched to the armed groups that signed up for peace.
While they were here, they recruited people who were still around. Some of the jihadists actually settled here. When they realized their lives and their futures were in danger, they just switched sides. They said, we're no Islamists, we're part of the MNLA, or the MAA, or the HCUA. Those faces we saw, those who joined the Islamic police, or the Sharia brigade, or the Islamic court, we know who they are. It doesn't matter what they say, we saw them in action.
Police and military admit it's impossible to know who's who in Timbuktu. Al-Qaeda sleeper cells are in place. Residents say they're like a mafia, always ready to eliminate any who stand in their way. Maiga faces death threats, but he opts to speak out.
Not a week goes by without attacks. Every 10 days or so, there is a kidnapping. Every month, there is a murder. That is why the religious chiefs of Timbuktu do not want to speak on camera. I understand them. You come here and ask questions. You want people to speak out. But what can you do to offer them protection? I'm not afraid of dying. Whether it be today or tomorrow, we all die one day.
In a sense, Timbuktu remains occupied by the fear within each of its inhabitants. The quest for normality sometimes bears fruit. The mausoleums vandalized by Al-Qaeda have been rebuilt. A small triumph for heritage and memory, thanks to Alassane Hassey's team.
You wet the wall and you run your hand over it. Your fingers must be apart. If the rain comes, those indentations will allow the water to run off. A wall can survive 1 or 2 rainy seasons. This one is into its third.
Hassey was here on the 30th of June 2012 when the mausoleums, listed as endangered by UNESCO, were smashed up by the occupying forces.
They were jihadists who called themselves Muslims. They attacked all the cemeteries, 10 or 13 of them. The damage hurt us. So we, the descendants of the Masons, we repaired the mausoleums. We did it for ourselves. That's what Timbuktu is about. We must not lose the tradition of teaching our descendants the craft of adobe and sandstone, which is used at the mausoleums, the mosques, and even on people's homes.
Every Friday, once more, the faithful visit the saints' tombs. They reconnect for a moment with a long history of peace and religious harmony. For Timbuktu to reconnect with tranquility requires Mali's authorities to commit to development, security, justice and reconciliation. These are the real defences against extremism. It'll be a long walk back to freedom.
François Rouet revisiting Timbuktu for France24. Well, that's all from this week's edition of Revisited. You can catch it again, though, and all the previous editions as well, of course, on our website, which is at France24.com. Thanks for watching. More news coming up in just a moment's time.